Hey, I'm Siobhan, and I love talking about all the things related to freedom and personal growth. And I'm on a journey to redefine freedom on my own terms as I become the woman I desire to be. Each week, I'll share in real time what I'm learning as I do my inner work while creating a safe space for my listeners to feel seen. If you desire to be free and live a life that feels good to you, then you're in the right place for beautiful conversations that's going to support you on your journey to freedom. Welcome to the Siobhan J. Middleton podcast. Now let's start the show. Hey, welcome back to another episode of my podcast. As always, I'm so happy you are here again for another week. I just want to take a moment to thank you. The reviews are coming in, whether y'all are telling me in person, y'all are leaving reviews on Apple Podcasts. Please continue to do that. You're sending me DMs, emails, all the things, and I am beyond grateful for all of the feedback that I'm receiving. And one thing that has resonated most, and this is very important to me, that I share in real time my experiences and how I'm redefining freedom on my own terms. And I do that because, number one, it's very helpful for me to talk about this out loud, but also for my community to witness what it's like to figure out your life, versus hearing about someone tell you about it later after they've gotten to the level of success that they have been striving for. So that is very important to me. And I'm learning a little bit more about that, even with my process in podcasting, how I want to record, when I want to record, and all these things. So again, thank you so much for the reviews. Keep them coming. I love all of the feedback that I'm receiving. And don't forget to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and, leave a comment and let me know what you think about this week's episode. I'm also getting comments on YouTube as well. So that's really, really great. So I want to get into today's episode. And this is fresh off the press. This past weekend, I was in Atlanta and I was visiting a friend, and it was a quick trip. I'm like, I just want to come, relax, chill out, and just vibe, right? The time that I was in Atlanta, the moment that I walked through my friend's house, it felt very zen-like, and also I felt safe. And it was a level of safety that I didn't know that I was lacking in my life. And that is the inspiration for today's episode, because I have been physically safe for almost a year. However, when it comes to emotional and psychological safety, that is something that I am still working on. And as I'm doing my inner work in this particular space, it is showing me how important it is for me to feel safe. And when I'm talking about safety, I mean safety in my body, safety in my environment, safety with the people that I have chosen to be in my life. Overall, I need to feel safe. And the thing is, I did not know the lack of safety I was experiencing until I moved into my own apartment almost a year ago. And I remember I was in the bed, and it had been several weeks, and I woke up one Sunday morning and I'm like, I'm not on edge. Like, I don't have to jump up and do something. And in that moment, I was shocked by what I was feeling, like this new level of peace, right? And so I had a conversation with my therapist about this, and she told me how I had been in a hypervigilant state. And I've said this on the podcast before, how you can be in discomfort and not know it, and that becomes comfortable to you. And then it's a shock to your nervous system when you experience something different than what you're used to and trying to adjust to that. And so when I talk about physical safety and emotional safety and psychological safety, in the past, while I was married, it felt like I was always on edge, which caused me to take action quickly and to think quickly and to just be on my feet. And it really felt like you're walking around on eggshells. And it is a very intense feeling for anyone who has ever experienced this. And what I learned from this past weekend while in Atlanta is that I've done an amazing job at creating a safe environment for me and my children. However, I'm still working on the emotional and psychological safety, and it's going to take some time. And I'm learning that there's no time frame for my recovery process based on half of my life has been spent in a specific relationship in a specific way, and it's going to take time to recover. It's going to take time to heal. And my friend told me the other day, like, you are doing an amazing job at taking care of yourself. And based on everything that you've been through, like, you're doing a phenomenal job. And my response was like, I don't know any other way to be other than doing the work. Because as I say here on the podcast all the time, freedom is my number one value. And so because of that, the goal is to be free. And with being free for me, that means, okay, what's the work that I need to do to get to the level of freedom that I desire? And so I'm grateful for that response of how well I'm doing. And I can see it too. That's why you'll hear me talk about my glow, because now my light is not dim. Now I'm glowing from the inside out. And you can see that when you are with me in person. You can see that on social media. You can witness my glow just by listening to me here on the podcast. You can witness it in my, reading my newsletter. Like, now my glow is holistic. And it's not anything that I have to force someone to see. Like, oh, can you see my light? Can you see my light? No, I'm just shining bright. That is a very beautiful thing. But also I'm doing the work. I'm doing the work from the inside out. And yet there's still work to do. So I watched this IG reel the other day, and I shared it in my IG stories, and it talked about how it's normal for your body to feel exhausted once it feels safe, especially when it's been in a state of hypervigilance for a period of time. And so the body has been running on high levels of cortisol and adrenaline, which isn't healthy. And it's going to take time for the body to recover and to get used to this new state of safety. And I'll link to the reel in my show notes, but it is very powerful. And it describes exactly how I've been feeling. And so even while I was in Atlanta, I slept a lot because my body was emotionally tired, especially with everything that I had experienced over the last year. All I kept hearing my body say was, thank you, thank you, thank you. And now that I have this level of awareness, it's going to help me and support me with doing deeper self-care, deeper self-love. And what does that look like? What does that feel like on an emotional level, right? And making sure that I am curating every single space that I'm in so that I feel emotionally and psychologically safe. And now that I'm thinking about this and I'm talking about this right now, it literally just came to me. Wow, thank you, Spirit. And it's making me emotional. Okay. The reason that it's going to take time to feel emotionally and psychologically safe is because that's the type of abuse that I experienced. So that makes perfect sense to me. And because I had been in my relationship for 20 plus years and married for 19 years, I've only been out of that environment for a year. So what I'm going to offer myself, and again, y'all are hearing me process in real time because this literally just came to me, offer myself compassion in this process because it is very new to me. Wow, I'm so grateful for that. And I'm grateful that I'm recording this so I can come back and listen to it myself. You're going to continue to hear me talk about doing the inner work. I mean, that is what this podcast is about. You're doing your inner work and redefining freedom on your own terms, whatever that looks like. And so some of the ways that you can begin to do your inner work, it may look like you going to therapy. It may look like you reading a book, a self-help or personal development book. It may mean you go to a conference. Maybe you join a coaching group. Maybe you choose the right type of friends that are supportive on your journey. Maybe that's meditation or slowness or stillness. Maybe this looks like using crystals, burning sage and incense and Palo Santo. Maybe it's you going to the gym and working out or yoga. Listen, whatever the inner work looks like for you, you define that for yourself. My podcast is simply a resource or a tool for you, and you chew up the meat, you spit out the bones, and figure out what works for you. When I was preparing for this week's episode, I wanted to share what safe spaces look like for me to give you some examples. And the first thing that came to mind, because again, the title is Finding Safe Spaces in People, Places, and Things, my plants. I have 14 plants to date, and my plants, they give me so much life. And the way that I am tending to them, the way that I'm talking to them, even yesterday I was reading to them. I was reading this book right by my plants, and it just felt really good. And the way that I'm tending to and taking care of my plants is a reminder to tend to and take care of myself. Another safe space for me is my home. Like, y'all hear me talk about my apartment all the time, and the way that I am organizing and decorating in a way that it soothes my nervous system. So earlier when I talked about feeling hypervigilant, and if you're not familiar with what that means, just do a Google search. But I have to curate my spaces in a way that my nervous system is at ease. And it takes time to figure out what I need because my nervous system was dysregulated for a very long time. And honestly, I didn't even know that that's what I was experiencing. I just thought that's how I was until I went to therapy and she started to give me language around what I was experiencing. Another safe space for me is roller skating. And you see me share videos on the gram all the time and on TikTok, but the rink is my safe space. It's a way for me to lean into and feel my body, to experience everything that I want to experience in that short time frame that I'm skating. And it is a safe space for me to simply just be myself and connect with other people who share that similar interest as it relates to roller skating. And then the other safe space I would say is my friends. My friends are amazing at providing emotional safety, and that is every relationship that I have, and I'm deeply, deeply, deeply grateful for that. And so emotional safety for me looks like trusting myself that I can take care of myself, that I can choose to be around the right people, to be in the right places, around the right things that make me feel safe. And every person, every place, everything has to feel good to my nervous system. And y'all, I know when it's off, and I can feel it. And then I got to pay attention to my body. So when I don't feel safe, I have to move accordingly. The people in my life, they see me and they soothe my nervous system. And I've shared this before that I have PTSD. So there's trauma that I am still working through. And sometimes I don't get a trigger, or I won't be aware of like a specific moment, if you will, until I'm having an experience. And this is why I have to do this type of work now, so that when I have triggers, I know how to self-soothe. My life right now is very beautiful, and it's full, and it's lovely, and I'm so grateful to be where I'm at today because I have worked really hard to get here. And this place is not even the best that it's going to be, like I know all the things that are in store. Like I shared on the gram the other day that I'm relocating to New Orleans in 3 years once my son graduates high school. And even dreaming and thinking about that wasn't even a possibility before. But I want to explore that. And I've been to New Orleans several times, and every time it's just felt like home to me. And even as I'm thinking about this, it's making me teary-eyed because I feel like it's calling me. So I'm creating this life that I've always longed to live. And it starts with me feeling emotionally and psychologically safe. I want you to reflect over your own life, and I want you to ask yourself the question, do you feel safe? Do you feel safe at work? Do you feel safe in your friendships? Do you feel safe at home? Do you feel safe in your family? Do you feel safe? And just journal about it and see whatever comes up for you. And again, that's physically safe, emotionally safe, psychologically safe. Do you feel safe? Now, in preparation for today's episode, I wanted to get a clear definition on what it's like to feel safe. And so I went to Google, and this is what I got. It says, to feel safe, you do not anticipate harm or hurt emotionally or physically. You feel secure, protected, and you can be responsive no matter the situation. Feeling psychologically safe is not feeling worried about being criticized by those around you. And it is a human right to feel safe and respected. So again, I ask you, I want you to think about, do you feel safe? Emotionally safe, physically safe, psychologically safe, based on the definition that I just gave you. And when I read the first part where it says to feel safe, you do not anticipate harm or hurt emotionally or physically. And the key word for me was anticipate, because this is why I lived on edge. This is why I walked around on eggshells, because in some way, if I didn't show up in a very specific way, I knew, my body knew that it wasn't safe for me. After I read this about feeling safe, what I came to was, I know I'm safe when I'm able to trust myself, and I know that there's no judgment, no criticism, and there's no fear. And the experience that I had in Atlanta, the experience that I'm having with other friends, in my home, wherever I'm at, I feel safe. And also knowing that because I've been in an environment that hasn't been safe for me for a very long time, it will take time to heal. And I'm okay with that. So I hope this episode was insightful for you. It really helped me, because before looking up the definition on Google, I didn't know specifically what it meant to feel safe. I just knew what I thought it was. But when I read it, I'm like, oh, absolutely. And so every single relationship connection, I have to feel secure, protected, and I can be responsive and not fearful of whatever that other person's response will be. This is amazing. Like, this just feels so good to me. So again, thank you so much for listening. Please leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and leave a review there for me. You can leave a comment on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to my weekly newsletter. You will find the link in the show notes. There's 2 options where you'll get my weekly newsletter every single week, absolutely free. It complements the podcast. And then if you want video content and other resources, you can become a paid subscriber to my newsletter, and you'll learn more once you click the link. If this episode was inspiring and supportive for you this week, you can treat me to a cup of coffee, or 2 or 3 or 4. That link is in the show notes as well. Thank you, because every week someone treats me to coffee, and I'm always so appreciative. Share this episode on social media, whether you're on Thread, TikTok, Instagram, wherever you're at. Share it. You can tag me, and I'll make sure I share it and repost it. I would love for you to send this episode to at least one friend. One friend, and say, hey, male or female, doesn't matter, and say, hey, can you listen to this? And let's talk about it. Sending you so much love and light. Until next time.